What is up? Welcome to another edition of Props to Consider and Then Maybe Bet. I am your host, Lou Betcha. Last 4 weeks, we have nailed 3 Yambag shots, 10 props out of 16 picks that don't involve the main event. We're killing it on the show. 1 week left until we get a break. Let's keep the momentum going. I have 2 brilliant guests that usually stick to Twitter Spaces, but they are braving the YouTube medium for me today. Dagestani Poppy and Rips and Picks. Guys, welcome to the show. Start with you, Poppy. How are you feeling about this card? Are you excited as a fan? Excited as a gambler? How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always excited for a big UFC slate, no matter which fights I'm getting. But 2023 has been an absolute heater so far. I think I'm up like 25 units this month, so I'm hoping to keep momentum rolling. And I think I've got plenty of good spots to do that with this set of fights we have.
I am glad to hear it. And Rips, we had talked about doing this a while ago because you wanted the Chidi Vera fight. How are you feeling about this card? Kind of have a feeling where you're leaning in the main event, but we'll get there when we do.
Yeah, super excited to be on the show, man. Definitely a longtime fan of the show and the channel for MMA Engine. So happy to be here. And yeah, I know we talked about doing the Cheeto fight back in February. Now they pushed it to give it the main event in front of people. So I think that's the way to do it, put it in front of an audience. So happy to break it down with you guys.
Absolutely. And anybody watching this, I see we got some people in the chat. We got Ben, Eric, Buffalo on the beat, Subhuman, DJO. Thank you guys for taking time out of your days. Thank you to my guests, Poppy and Rips and Picks, for time out of their day. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the MMA Engine channel. Every little bit helps myself, Monk, Brady, and Wheezy as we build more and more cool stuff going forward. All right, it's enough preamble. It's enough of this. Let's get into it. Let's get to this card. Poppy, I'm going to start with you. What is the first prop to consider and then maybe bet you have identified on this slate?
Yeah, so I'm on the Haley Cowan side. I jumped on the price a bit earlier, so I'm not super enthused by the money line at this point. But I'm going with the Haley Cowan submission prop. I didn't write down the number on that one. You're muted, Lou.
Damn, plus 700 on DraftKings right now.
Okay, and then that is definitely the angle that I'm going with, Haley Cowan submission. I think that we've seen Vidal broken before. I go back and watch the Aylin Perez fight. It's pretty similar stylistically. It's a real physical girl who wants to initiate the clinch and cage push you and test your will there. And we saw Aylin Perez basically do whatever she wanted in those clinch positions to the point that Vidal quit and wanted out in the form of a head shot to the back of the head or whatever it was. But I think in this case, she's not gonna find that out, and she's gonna end up quitting by giving up her neck.
All right. Starting off with the opener. Rips, you got anything on that fight that you liked as a prop?
There's nothing that I'm really seeing sticking out on that first fight for me, at least for a prop. I mean, I know the line on Haley Cowan's pretty much gone up. It's gone down. It's somewhere in the middle here right now. I mean, if I were to take a shot, I'm kind of with Dagestani on a sub. I mean, I would probably take a Vidal sub prop. Just the chance that Haley Cowan does get her neck stuck in something. Yeah, so, I mean, if I were to take a shot, I'd go Vidal submission, but I'll probably be laying off this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed the number on Cowan. I do think she wins. I think Vidal has no decision equity here. It's in Texas. We haven't talked about that. Joe Solis, the legend, will probably be at the judging table for this. So be very careful with any fights you like to go the distance. But I am with Poppy, and I do favor the Cowan side, but I think Vidal sub or Cowan sub are sneaky ways to approach this. I don't see a knockout either way here either. All right, Rips, your turn. What is your first prop to consider you got on the show?
So, I mean, let me see if I can go maybe in order of something here. So, I mean, at least the earliest prop that I'm going to go after, which I'm sure you guys might have a play on this too, that is going to be the Vergara round 2. I do think Vergara can win by KO here. His KO is like minus 160. His ITD, I believe, is minus 170. So, I mean, if you're going to play him by KO, you might as well do ITD, even though I don't think he gets the sub. But This fight to me feels very straightforward. De Silva is literally allergic to some late rounds. Compared to Vergara's last 3 opponents, De Silva is, I'd probably say, a step down from all those guys. So I think Vergara is going to put on a show in front of his hometown. I think he's going to get the finish in round 2. And I definitely don't think this fight's going the distance. So, yeah, I'm going to take Vergara round 2 and maybe hedge with De Silva submission round 1.
So you were joking earlier when you said, let me sell you on De Silva decision.
Man, anyone that's taken De Silva decision or the over 1.5, I mean, maybe this fight goes over 1.5. I don't know, but I mean, I'm not trying to sit clenched for 15 minutes, just sweating bullets on my couch. So I think De Silva gets his papers after this fight, and I think Vergara gets that big performance he's been looking for.
Yeah, that round 2 prop's interesting. I mean, if anything, you just sweat in the first 4 minutes and you're hoping that Vergara, who's not like a real legendary finisher, especially at this level, just kind of takes his time, maybe some grappling and just a little bit of wearing him out. If any fans of the show will know that I like round 2 better than round 1 because it pays more. So, Poppy, do you have any plays on that are prop based, or just are you leaning on their time props for Vergara side?
No, I think Rips nailed that one. I think round 2 would be the way to go. Like the cardio dynamic is just something you don't really see at 125 pounds all that often, where you have a guy who after 2 minutes is going to completely fall off a cliff. So I think it's probably going to look similar to the Molina fight. I'm just praying that this guy catches a spinning back kick to the head and I can live bet Vergara.
VB in the house. I love the Twitter spaces you guys do with him. I know he's friends with my guy Shark, just like you guys are. VB, thanks for taking time out of your day. I do appreciate that. All right. I'm going to get to a fight that I think we're probably going to have some differences of opinion here. I like the price for this on FanDuel. Torres round 1 submissions plus 650. A lot of people are favoring the KO here. I'm not really certain why they like that better. Ogden 25 pro fights. Never been a KO either way. I see people on the Ogden side. I get it. Like Torres is wild. But if I look at the way Ogden's had his 2 fights in the UFC, he got out volumed by Jordan Levitt, who throws no volume. And then Zaluber threw 52 strikes in a 3-round fight against him. He made Ogden's life easy, wasn't crowding him, let Ogden dictate the pace. Even Levitt, with the small kicks he was landing, was pushing Ogden back. That's not going to be a problem here for Torres. He's going to crowd him. He's going to throw tons of strikes. He's going to do it early. Ogden's been choked out 3 times. Torres has 3 choke wins. I've seen on Ogden in some of his regional tapes when he gets hurt, he panic shoots for takedowns. I think if he does here, Torres is going to grab that neck, choke him out. I do have concerns on the Torres cardio, but the round 1 sub at plus 650 on FanDuel is a great price for what I do think his prime winning condition is. If this thing gets past the 8-minute mark, I don't think I like Torres too much here, but I am on the Torres side and I'm going to attack it with the round 1 sub plus 650 on FanDuel. I think it's only plus 500 on DraftKings. So as always, shop around for your best price. Poppy, your feelings about the Ogden Torres fight, and if you have any action on it.
Yes, I'm going to go head to head with you here. I like Trey Ogden a lot in this spot. I'm actually, my prop is going to be Trey Ogden submission plus 380. I view this guy as a black belt who's preparing for no-gi worlds right now, expecting to make a run, going against a guy who's at Entrom Gym, just getting gifted his purple belt a few weeks ago. And I expect there to be a pretty significant difference in the level of jiu-jitsu once it hits the mat. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the cardio and the fact that we don't really know what this guy looks like in the second round. He's been one of these guys, kind of like a Terrence McKinney, when you look at their tapologies, where they're either finishing early or getting finished early. And in this case, I think Trey Ogden is going to take a smart approach. Everything I'm hearing from him is that he understands the mission real well, and I think he's going to find himself on Torres's back and choke him out probably early in the fight.
This is an interesting comment from Buffalo that Ogden's going to look like Fremd. Yeah, I mean, we saw that. We've just seen this. I actually got a bet on earlier in the week on Dumas, and at a good price. And then as the week went on, I got a lot of buyer's remorse, and I was able to hedge out on it. But yeah, Fremd looked pretty good. If Ogden gets a takedown going, I mean, that's why I like the round 1 angle. But I think as this fight goes on, Ogden should probably take over. All right, you got to break the tie, Rips. We got 1-on-1 on that fight. Who do you like?
I mean, I'm definitely the person to lean or at least look towards the person with the more UFC experience and try and find a side on their side, or at least try and find a spot on that side that I like. Since both of you guys are talking about the submission, maybe fight ends at submission isn't a bad way to look at it. But honestly, just off of the first kind of read I had looking at this, I thought, well, Manuel Torres will probably finish Ogden, or Ogden will probably go to decision. So I would more want to take the Ogden decision prop, which is, let me see what that is. I believe it's plus 400. I think definitely the first round, Manuel Torres is going to look, pretty athletic and going to look like the just guy who looks like he's taken some extra supplements in the gym. I don't know what they're feeding that boy.
A little bit.
He looks like
a little bit.
Dude, he's taking something. But either way, I would more lean the Trey Ogden, I'd say, by decision line. But it's not a fight that I'm too confident in. Ogden hasn't impressed me much, and I do think Manuel Torres is definitely going to just be the crisper fighter on the feet throwing strikes. So I'll take the Ogden decision and just hope that Torres fades a little late.
All right. 3 different looks on that fight. That's always good for the viewing audience. I do have a tracked bet on fight to end in sub. It's plus 140 on DraftKings. I feel like it does cover a lot of the possible win conditions in this fight. I don't see a KO either side. Decision possible with Ogden. I don't think Torres has decision equity here, but I can see both angles that you guys have. All right, Poppy. Next prop that you got to offer us on the show.
All right. I'll take it over to the Macy Barber fight versus Andrea KGB Lee. I think that Andrea Lee is a little bit over the hill at this point. I think that her best fights are behind her, and we haven't seen the best of Macy Barber at this point. So I think we're going to see Macy Barber taking her into the clinch and just beating her up like a hockey fight the way she does, just grabbing that one underhook or one overhook and just ripping right hands repeatedly. And I think at some point KGB is going to want out. So I'm going to go with the Macy Barber round 3 prop at 16-1.
Ooh. Now you're talking my language. Round 3. Rips, can you top that with this fight? Because my prop cannot.
I mean, I guess I can get somewhat close to it. This is actually the fight that I was going to take ends in split decision. If you guys remember that we were talking a little bit, we never talked. All of us didn't talk about any of the picks, but I did say I'd like to split, and I know one of you guys like some different ones, so we'll see if you bring it up. But I just think this fight there's a 10-year gap in age, obviously. Macy Barber being the younger fighter, but she's 24 and Andrea Lee is 34. To what Dagestan said, I do agree that Andrea Lee's best days might be behind her, but she's right at that probably strongest she's probably been, at least, just her, she's always been a strong person anyway. So I think the 10-year gap there, the one thing I'd probably see is Lee being the stronger fighter. So I'm going to take that this ends in split just because Andrea Lee's going to be at home. I think she's going to probably land the more significant strikes on the feet. I don't know if she'll land the more significant if Macy has a lot of ground control. I know you're taking round 3, Dagestan. I think this fight obviously goes to the distance. So give me the fight ends in split and give me Andrea Lee split at plus 1,200. And just the off chance that she lands more strikes and that home crowd's cheering for, maybe we just get a robbery here and Lee takes the split.
So we never talk about picks. I never want to know what other people have taken before the show starts. We mentioned in the chat, I said, I see one big Texas-sized robbery coming up. That's the one. Plus 1,200 for the split. It's plus 400 for the fight to end in split. I know, but now Poppy's got me thinking like, man, the plus 1,600 is interesting. I almost feel like it depends on what Barber we see. I mean, if there's any,
for a clear pick, I'm going to have to take Macy, at least to add that. So I do think she'd probably win. I just think the line's gotten a little out of whack. I think the fight goes 15 minutes, at least to me. So the split at least has some equity.
The answer is no, because that's why Ezekiel Elliott is leaving the Cowboys for Philadelphia. I mean, Barber has all the finish equity. Like, don't get me wrong. If there's going to be a finish, it's on the Barber side, unless she has an unfortunate like tears her ACL or something. But I think that Barber's probably going to win. But I think this fight does go the distance more often than not, and that's the only reason I'm leaning toward one of these. Again, we're in Texas, like it's a little sketchy to me, but that round 3 prop is with Barber plus 1600 certainly has my attention here. All right, Rips, you're up. Next prop.
All right, so for me, I'm going to look at the Pineda and Lutz fight. At least just a quick break-in on this fight. I mean, I think Pineda is going to be the more experienced fighter. I just think that comes with a cost here. I think Pineda is going to start strong. He has the much more finishing ability or just willingness to go for it, and he's going to put it all on the line in round 1. And if he can't finish him by the time that bell rings at the end of round 1, I think it's probably just going to be Tucker Lutz. So I'm going to take Tucker Lutz round 3 or decision plus 200. I just think Tucker Lutz fights smart and very cautiously. I just think he's just going to be able to weather that early storm. And, you know, there's a chance that Pineda fades and maybe he gasses out in round 3. I'm going to think he gasses out in round 2. I just don't know if Tucker Lutz is really going to push for the finish like that. So round 3 and decision, I think that covers Pineda gassing out late and Tucker just fighting cautiously. And I am maybe thinking about taking a slight hedge on Pineda by sub, just because I do think Tucker Lutz isn't the most extraordinary grappler, so maybe he does put his neck in somewhere and get finished. I would say if Pineda does win, it would be on the submission side.
Yeah, should mention also Lutz is coming off a pretty bad back injury here. I mean, he is not, that's why he took so much time off. He's not known as a big legendary finisher. It was odd to me that his in the distance prop is plus 110. Again, for a guy that it seems like that whole line is based on Pineda's age and not Lutz's skill set. Poppy, you have anything on that fight at all, or is this a total pass for you at this number?
As far as money lines, I definitely don't have anything, but maybe a small stab on the Daniel Pineda round 1 prop would be interesting, just considering that he probably doesn't have much more than 5 minutes of cardio at this stage of his career and based on what we've seen at him in the past. So there's at least good reason to believe he's going to try and maximize his win equity. And we've seen him take some people out in the first round in the previous years. So I think plus 700 is not a terrible number.
Okay, I don't want to spoil anything, but I may be talking about this fight near the end of the show. So we'll get to that one when we need to get to that one. All right, let's see what I want to go with next here. Because I already talked about that. You stole that one from me. All right, I'm going to go really low odds. It's like embarrassingly low odds for me. I'm taking Chidi round 1 KO at plus 270. I really wanted to get to Dariaev here. I looked at the number and I'm like, man, I just plus 145 seem okay for a fight that seems pretty equal. But there's a couple of things that got me on this round 1 KO prop. Number one, there's a world where the Chidi fight with RoboCop is over in round 1. I think there should be a new rule if you can see the dude's brain. If you can literally see the guy's brain during a fight, it should be stopped. I think a lot of refs would have stopped that. It was a very clear 10-8. Yes, he ran out of gas going for the finish, but again, you have G-Rod down and out like that. You go for it, and that's all the cardio he had. If you're worried about the Dariaev wrestling side here, the guy is 3 for 18 in his last 2 fights getting takedowns. I think he will struggle to get Chidi down here. I also think Chidi knows he has limited cardio. He can fight for 7-8 minutes, so I can see Chidi landing a couple of bombs early, getting Dariaev out. It just seems like a simpleton, easy pick for a fight like this. And I just don't think Dariev's going to be able to get Chidi down. And every second this fight's on the feet is just a danger zone for him. Buckley was piecing him up. I think Buckley is technically a more accurate. He's a better striker than Chidi. But just the way Dariaev quit, I mean, he was done. And it wasn't even just between second and third round. His body language that last 2 minutes of the second round, he was just looking to get out of there, looking to survive the round. Like, he wanted no part of this fight. As soon as you see that in a fighter, and now he's facing a dude equally as dangerous with as much power, like, I want out of this. I mean, Dariaev had struggled to take Kopylov down. Like, that's, Kopylov's no wrestler. So, Poppy, you got anything to say on that fight at all?
again, another fight I don't want to touch the money line. I just don't know what I'm getting out of these guys. I don't know which of these guys is going to fall off of a cliff with their cardio first. I think one of them is going to do it, and it's going to look real bad. It's either going to be Dariaev in full mount beating Chidi like a drum while he's quitting, or it's going to be Dariaev gassed out in the feet and getting knocked out maybe in round 2. So I think most of the lines are pretty sharp here.
All right. What about you, Rips? Any thoughts on this fight, or could it be boring? Could you see a boring decision here somehow, or no?
You know what? It's funny you said that. The first thing I thought in my head was, okay, how does Albert Dariaev win a decision here? How does he just figure out how to extend this fight? How does Albert Dariaev just get it to the judges and not get knocked out? I'd have to think that's at least what he's hoping he can do. But the more I thought about it, man, just like you brought up the 3 and 18 takedown attempts, like this guy really was finishing everyone and getting everyone down with like the first or second takedown. And the second he gets into the UFC, I mean, people just don't go down. So now he's going down. So I mean, DraftKings has the parlay with Chidi and the under 1.5. That's plus 165. I think that's at least worth a stab. Yeah, I think the Chidi and under 1.5 plus 165. You get his first round finish. You get the chance if it goes to the second, and I'm not.
And you get freak sub.
Yeah, I'll probably just stay off it for the most part, though.
Okay, Chidi under 1.5 is a good way to look at that, though. 165 is a pretty good price. It's one of these fights where if it hits the 8th, 9th minute of the fight, you probably don't deserve to win your bet. You're probably just ripping up the ticket anyway. All right, that was me. All right, Poppy, you are up. What's the next prop you got for us?
All right, I'll go to the Trevin Giles versus Preston Parsons fight. Trevin Giles is a really strange guy to handicap because on one hand, he's very gifted and he's got all the skills you'd really want and someone who could go pretty far in the division. But on the other hand, he continuously makes horrible mistakes during the fights, and he pulls people into mount, and he strikes when he should be grappling, and he grapples when he should be striking, and so you just don't really know exactly what you're going to get from him. So I could see this fight playing out in a classic damage versus control time situation where you've got Preston Parsons getting takedowns and cage pushing and getting extended periods of control, maybe threatening some subs. But then on the feet, you've got Giles landing his jab and doing the better shots. So I'm going to take the Trevin Giles by split decision prop at plus 1,400. You got to remember these are Texas judges. You have no idea what you're getting here. At the same time, he's the home state guy. I think he's from Houston. He's going to be getting a huge crowd pop every time he lands anything. And I think that could be enough to make a weird staring fest / slop fest go Trevin's way.
Rips, do you think this fight could be worse than the Kosei fight with Trevin Giles? Is it possible to have a worse fight than the Kosei Giles fight?
Man, that was a pretty
Brutal.
awful fight. I honestly, even Trevin versus Roman Dolidze round 3. I mean, that is like, just get like a high school wrestling coach in there and he'd be screaming at both guys. That's just, yeah, I don't think this fight gets as greasy as that. Trevin Giles definitely likes to get in the greasy fights, but it's funny. Dagestani brought up split. I was looking actually more towards the other side and just Preston Parsons by decision. I think he's probably going to get outstruck here. I do think he can hopefully just control most of the time. And the fight to go the distance is plus 175. I'm a little more inclined to actually play that line. I do think that this could go either way. I don't think there's going to be, I just don't think there's going to be a really highlight finish in this fight. Maybe Trevin Giles does get a crazy knockout or something, but yeah, I'm looking at the fight goes the distance plus 175, and I'll take the Parsons decision plus 400.
Yeah, the guys, I don't have any props to this myself. I favor the Parsons side. I think I'm just higher on him than most, but I don't have a real strong feeling here. The guys that Giles is getting subbed by are like animals. Not Zach Cummings, but He's getting subbed by GM3. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And even Morales and DDP finishing him. I mean, he's getting finished by no shame in losing to Michael Morales and no shame in getting knocked out by DDP. Parsons hasn't shown any finishing level at this ability at this level yet. Yeah, the D-Rod fight was short notice, but so was the Evan Elder fight. Evan Elder came in up a weight class, 3 days notice. Parsons had him in all sorts of trouble. I was on the Parsons sub in that fight. All sorts of chokes. Elder hung on. Parsons, who has decent wrestling even before he got in MMA, he did look kind of gassed in the third round against Elder. Elder was kind of done. That third round was, the fight was done at that point. But Parsons, I was with Giles. His cardio's never really been my concern. It's his low output that's been my concern. I mean, he didn't look tired against Kosei. He shouldn't have. They didn't do nothing. So there's no reason he should have been tired in the third round of that fight. But if Parsons struggles to get takedowns as the fight goes on, I do think Giles could start piecing him up. And to Poppy's point, I really think a weird decision could happen where Giles could steal rounds at the end. But I think for the most part, I favor the Parsons side, but I don't personally have any props on this. And the sub props weren't good enough for me for Parsons. I mean, plus 700, plus 1400 round 2-3 isn't. I need a little more meat on the bone for a guy that hasn't gotten them on this level yet. So.
Yeah, the one last thing I would say about Trevin Giles is, if we think of this fight like a race, Trevin Giles just isn't the fighter to lap somebody. He always makes it close. It's always coming down to the finish line. Who's going to win right there, So that is one thing about his fights. He usually lets a lot of guys stick around or make cases to win the fight. So, yeah, one thing I don't like about betting him.
I have no problem with people addressing me this way, by the way. All right. Rips, your turn. What prop you got for us next? I only have one left, and I wonder if we're all going to have an opinion on it at some point, but I'm curious what you have next for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do have one just for the main event, and then obviously we got the special props at the end. But one other prop that kind of just caught my eye today that I just want to make sure I'm looking at the current line for it here. I know this line on Nate Landwehr keeps coming down. It seems like he was the guy that everyone liked at the beginning, and now the more the week has gone on, everyone has become Austin Lingo's biggest fan. And I understand the talk. Landwehr gets hit every single time in his fight, and he's not like Gaethje. He's not going to Trevor Whitman. He's not changing his style anytime soon. He's looking to eat shots and give them. So I actually like the Nate Landwehr round 2 plus 500. I think he could get a knockout. He could get a submission. I'd lean more that it might be a submission, but Austin Lingo coming in here on short notice. I think they're going to slug it out in the first round, and I think there could be a finish, honestly, on either side in round 2, but I'll take the Nate Landwehr round 2 plus 500.
Yeah, this line is crazy. It came out. He's down to minus 200 on DraftKings. I mean, everybody's just been pouring on quarter units on Lingo, and now it's getting to the point where Landwehr, he's reasonably bettable at this number. Before I give my last prop is on that fight too, but Poppy, do you have anything you think like prop wise on the Landwehr Lingo fight?
Nothing prop wise, but just real quick, I'll just point out that I think a big reason you can't trust Nate Landwehr at a big chalk number in this fight is you have to handicap in the fact that he's fighting in front of a San Antonio crowd. And we just saw him in his last fight literally step out of mount to try and pump up the crowd in an effort just to be an entertainer. And now he's going to have thousands of people chanting his name. Like, can you trust him at all to stick to a reasonable game plan? Or is he going to go out there and try to bang with potentially the guy with better hands? I'll just point that out real quick.
Yeah. I mean, look, I haven't forgiven him since beating my guy Darren Elkins, but I did get some money back on him with the David Alama fight. I am just going to take what Rip said and add a little more to it. This is also on FanDuel, but you can get a way better price if you have Bet365. Landwehr round 2, round 3 submission is plus 2,000 on FanDuel. If Lingo has shown that he's pretty durable in his career, I think much to what you said, Poppy, it's going to be Landwehr. He's going to intentionally just want to get in some kind of reckless striking battle, especially early in this fight. I wonder if things get hairy, would Landwehr take this to the ground? His cardio has always been pretty good. Lingo's cardio, not shabby either, but at this level, I've always liked what I've seen with Landwehr. It's his skill set I worry about more than his cardio. The guy's a gamer. If this fight gets hairy, Landwehr's going to have a huge advantage if he wants to take this fight to the ground. I don't think he'll do it in the first round. I do think those last 10 minutes of the fight, the submission's very live. Plus 2,000. I can't get off this. It's like it's the same price as a Yambag shot. You speak in my language, you're plus 2,000. If you have FanDuel, I like that big as a look. I tried to make it as the same game play on DraftKings, and I got like plus 1,500 for literally the same play, just throwing in minutes and seconds, and not worth it to me. So I would play it on FanDuel plus 2,000 myself. That is the last prop that I had that does not involve the main event. So if you guys would like to move right to it, Poppy, I'd like to start us off with your main event props.
I'll just break down the main event the best way I can. I took some of the over. I took some Sandhagen decision. I capped the Sandhagen decision at 45%. So I think anything better than plus 120 is a go. And if it's worse than that, I don't like it. Real cut and dry. But for a prop, I'm gonna go for it all. I like the Yambag shot here. Like I think you're gonna have two guys that are gonna be switching stances. You've got potential for eye pokes with both of these guys. And I think something you have to account for in a nut shot prop is that these are not guys who are going to let these things go unnoticed. I think that if Chidi Vera is getting fouled in any way, he's going to be screaming at the referee the entire time, letting him know. And I think if Corey Sandhagen gets hit, the same thing applies. He's going to want a little bit of a break from that pressure from Chidi, and he's going to take as much time as possible. So I see potential nut shot. They're both going to be throwing leg kicks as well while switching stances. So I think the point deduction shot here is as good as any fight and definitely elevated odds in my opinion.
So I know Wheezy's not here right now, but as the other professor of the Yambag Institute, we applaud the way you analyzed why there would be a nut shot in that fight with the switch stances. You are clearly advanced beyond your years, and we will bequeath on you an honorary diploma, Mr. Dagestan Poppy, for understanding that Southpaw versus Orthodox, big part of this. Happened last week with Klein and Herbert. So, I mean, you never know. Rips, main event. And then if you want to talk about Yambags, let's do it. There are no rules here.
Yeah. So for the main event, if anybody knows, I'm a huge Chidi Vera fan. So I've been running this guy for a very long time. He's been cashing as an underdog. He's been finishing fights. We got my dog back here, Cain Velasquez, climbing in here. That is his name, by the way. But I'm going to take Chidi Vera money line. That's obviously going to be more of my play that I'm taking. But for the props, like Dagestan, I want to go for it all here. So I'm going to take the Chidi sub plus 700. It's line plus 700 for a reason. Chidi has submissions on his record, nothing more recently. But the big thing for me is Chido's team knows Corey's holes in his game. Jason Perillo is a very good coach at making the game plans and everything for each fight that he has. I mean, what he did against Dominic Cruz is different than what he did against Rob Font. He's not just going out there doing the same thing, even though it's working over time. So I don't think Chido's going to shoot any doubles here. I don't think he's going to be aiming for the submission, but I do think that Chidi is a much more dangerous fighter when it does come to the ground game. I know Corey has submissions and other things, but in a 25-minute fight, I think this fight could easily hit the ground at some point, and Chidi submission plus 700. We've seen Aljamain wrap it up very fast. I haven't seen too many people try and wrap up Corey. So why not go for it all on the main event? Chidi sub plus 700.
That's an interesting look, and I see it too. I don't have any props on this one, and yes, I'm going to be one of these people that does a live entry after round one on Vera. I mean, everybody's on Sandhagen this week. I completely understand why. I know he's going to be the minute winner versus the moment winning of Vera if he does get his striking going, if he does get the grappling going. The one thing that makes me lean toward Vera a little more here is Sandhagen's takedown numbers in the UFC are like way worse than I thought. They're way worse. The Song Yudong fight, they were like abysmal. I mean, the fight was on the ground, but His entries were bad. I think this fight's going to be standing for 25 minutes. Sometimes you just got to go against conventional logic. Vera right now is on a roll. If he's got 25 minutes to land a couple of shots, that might be all it needs. I know Sandhagen's only been knocked down once in the UFC, but man, Vera right now could just chop away with the leg kicks, could limit his mobility. And if he's a sit and duck, that's going to be a problem for Sandhagen. The other thing I'll add here, and no, this isn't a technical breakdown, and no, I don't like Narrative Nation. I really hate kind of making plays like this, but there's a part of me that thinks we are on a path where we're going to get Sean O'Malley against Chidi Vera for the title in the next 12, 18 months. And for that to happen, this fight has to fall in line there. If it does go decision, I think Vera does have decision equity here. I don't think he has a lot of it, but if he is landing the big moments, we're talking about how this crowd's going to be swinging the judges. I do think he can have some optics here to maybe steal around here or there. But, well, Poppy already gave his Yambag shot. And for those watching for the first time, we're betting on a point deduction. You can find them at DraftKings or Betway. They pay 20-1, except 2 times now in history. Greg Hardy against Marcin Tybura, and most recently, John Jones against Cyril Gane was plus 1,800 for a Yambag shot. Rips, who do you have for your Yambag shot of the week?
All right, so I'm going to go early in the card, and we're going to go Alta Moreno versus Salvador for the Yambag play of the card. I think this fight is going to be pretty high-paced. I think it's going to have a ton of action. I just think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to commit a foul. I think either fighter, can land some toes of the scroll. They can eye poke. They're going to be throwing a lot. There's one thing that I will point out is that Salvador is going to have a language barrier. He does have the translator at all the interviews and everything, and toes of the scroll. He's just going to have a possibility of just having that interaction where there's just that language barrier. They don't know what's going on. I've seen it so many times where they try and tell a fighter who doesn't understand English, hey, stop grabbing the cage, stop doing this. And they just keep doing it because they don't understand that they're trying to say that. So just the fact that these guys, not to say that they're inexperienced, but they can get a little sloppy in their striking. And yeah, I just like the fact of both these guys coming in here, swinging, having a lot of opportunities. I could easily see at least one nut shot, one something, even if we don't get the point deduction. I think somebody's going to commit a foul here.
Love it. Love it. I struggled this week with this one, so I'm glad that you guys have provided 2 good Yambag shots. I'm going to go, I alluded to it earlier in the show, I'm going to go with Pineda and Lutz. And this is more, there's two reasons I like it. And they're both on the Pineda side. Number one, a lot of his fights have just had absolute chicanery. I think he overdid it with the eye poke against Feely. I think he knew he was done. And he kind of took the easy way out there. I also think that, if we're talking about his win condition as round 1, he's probably just going to be going for it, throwing all sorts of wild stuff. If Lutz does get the takedowns going after the first round, cage grabs come into play. And I can't think of the fight I had with Pineda, but it was I want to see if I can bring this up. If you give me 1 second here. It wasn't that fight.
You going back to his first stint in the UFC or what?
No, Bellator. I'm going to the Karakhanyan fight. He was looking a little tired, and he intentionally eye poked the guy to just get that 5-minute break. And that's the Paulo Costa move. And when I see that, the thing is they're starting to call that now. They know that what you're doing. They know you're doing this to get the breather. Herbert Burns was trying to do it to Algio. He was trying to reach back and kind of gouge his face. Cachoeira was trying to do it to Jillian Robertson. We're seeing these guys kind of try to get I'll take the point deduction. Just give me the couple of minutes break. I can see Pineda doing it. He's probably going to be gassed to shit. So it was going to be either that or Cowan and Vidal. But honestly, I think that's going to be, which would be a clam bag shot for those, to be politically correct on the show. But I'm going to stick with Pineda. Lutz. But I don't really have any confidence about this. I like Poppy's feeling about the Yambags in the main event. I like that. Rips, I like your pick a lot too here. Like, don't listen to me on this Yambag stuff. Like, listen to these two this week. But and that takes us to the end of the program. I have wanted to work with you two for a long time. I was listening to you guys on Twitter Spaces, so thank you so much for spending time. Poppy, I will start with you. Please tell the people where they can find you, what you'll be doing, and when they can see your pretty face on camera again.
I would say just follow me on Twitter at Dagestan Poppy. I'm posting free plays on there, and I'm posting full slates come fight time. And like I said, we're killing it in 2023. So it's jump on the rocket ship.
Yeah, these guys are killing it. Rips and picks. Tell the people. Tell them about Spaces. Tell them where to find you. All that good stuff.
Yeah, just the same as Dagestan. You can find me on Twitter, just at the same username right here at Rips and Picks. Just putting out content throughout the fight week, doing obviously MMA gambling and releasing picks and everything. So drop a follow. Just like Lou says, we're in Spaces and things all the time on Twitter. If you're new to Twitter, not in Spaces, or first time kind of hearing about it, you know, it's just like this. Everyone can just hop in and kind of give some breakdowns of fights and things. So just some good opportunities to hear from some smart minds in the space. But I appreciate the time today, Lou. Like I said, always been a fan of the show and the channel. So we'll have to do this again sometime.
We definitely do. And by the way, just to play on something I said last night to you guys, Bosnia and Herzegovina is beating Iceland 3-0 right now. Thank you very much. The Bosnian college basketball round robin is off to a very good start. You can find me at Lou Betcha on Twitter, the channel. I just, before I let these guys go, I am debuting a new show tomorrow morning, and one that I think Mr. Dan Rips and Picks would find fascinating. I don't know if I told you about the show, but I alluded to earlier. An interesting way to play the Holly Holm fight would be Holly Holm money line and 1 takedown. She has attempted 20 takedowns her last 2 fights. I know one of them was 5 rounds, but still gets you minus 240 to plus 210. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to record it. I will be debuting a show where all I talk about is potential same game parlays you can do on DraftKings for each and every UFC card. I'm going to have to wait till Friday mornings because we don't even have, you can't even do same games on the whole undercard right now. Right now, it's just main card. But I will be showing ways to just kind of get a little more line value on some of these fights, solely based on same game parlays and seeing how they stack up to their FanDuel equivalents in terms of like a round 2, round 3 sub versus what they offer. I know you're a big proponent of same games. I know my buddy Danny Lags is a big proponent of them.
I got one for you. That hopefully anybody that's sticking around late gets to get a little gem here. But Macy Barber and Andrea Lee. Macy Barber has 1 total takedown, and the fight goes over 1.5 minutes. Is plus 105.
Oh. And then you don't care who wins.
Plus 105.
And you don't even care who wins.
She could win that bet in 60 seconds. If you want to take that she has 1 takedown in round 1 and still the over 1.5 minutes, I think that's like plus 300. Oh, so wow. I'm all over that. I hope anyone who stayed late got a little gem, but I definitely think that's hitting this week.
I think last week Lags was like talking to me about it. It was like 1 takedown in the first round, didn't matter who, and Gunnar Nelson to have at least 1 takedown, and you got almost even money. You just, guys, there's a lot of money to be made on these same game parlays at the moment. At some point, we'll see. Like DraftKings might start tightening it up, but there's lots of ways to tweak. And anytime you even see a special that they offer, a certain prop, try it in the same game. You may get better value. We'll be attacking that each and every Friday morning going forward. Well, not next Friday because, you know, we don't have a card, but we'll try. Guys, good luck on your bets this weekend. Protect your bags. And I will see you in 2 weeks when my guests are my first repeat guest ever, Brady. He did the Chase Sherman card. I owe him. And Sparring with Reality, Luke, should be an awesome card for the Pereira pay-per-view. Take care, guys. God bless.